Debt doesn't become a crisis the moment you swipe the card. It becomes a crisis the moment your paycheck disappears and that card is the only thing standing between you and an empty refrigerator. That's not a hypothetical. That's exactly what happened to millions of Americans when the pandemic didn't just pause the economy, it shattered it like a dinner plate on a tile floor. Let's talk about Cannon, because her story isn't an edge case. It's a blueprint for how quickly manageable becomes unmanageable when life stops cooperating. She had a credit card the way most of us do, a little buffer, a credit score builder, something for the occasional unexpected expense, and then she lost part of her part-time income, and suddenly that card wasn't a tool anymore, it was a lifeline. Here's the mechanism nobody talks about at the kitchen table. When income drops, but rent, utilities, groceries, and gas don't, the math doesn't negotiate with you, it just runs. You don't choose to go deeper into debt, you choose to eat. And debt is the only vehicle available. Think of it like a bathtub where someone turned the faucet down to a trickle but forgot to close the drain. The water level doesn't stay the same, it falls. And you keep reaching for anything to fill it. Credit cards become the emergency bucket. Except every time you use them, they charge you for the privilege of borrowing the water. The irony is almost poetic in the worst way. The very tool designed to help people build financial credibility becomes the instrument of financial erosion the moment stability disappears. Economists have a term for this: debt distress spiral. And it sounds clinical until you realize it just means someone is choosing between the electric bill and the grocery run. Now here's where the macroeconomics enter the chat, because this isn't just a personal finance story, it's a structural one. When interest rates rise, as they aggressively did in the post-pandemic era, every dollar of revolving credit card debt becomes more expensive to carry, and households, already stretched thin, get squeezed from both sides simultaneously. The misconception most people hold is that only irresponsible spenders end up in high-interest credit card debt. And that narrative is not just wrong, it is dangerously wrong. Cannon wasn't reckless. She was rational, doing exactly what the system told her to do. And then the system moved the floor. History is actually full of these inflection points where external shocks, recessions, pandemics, layoffs, medical emergencies convert functional household debt into structural traps practically overnight. The 2008 financial crisis did this to homeowners. The pandemic did this to hourly workers, gig workers, and anyone living one income source away from the edge. Here's the pattern that keeps repeating and that nobody seems to get tired of ignoring. Households that carry moderate debt are resilient when income is stable and catastrophically vulnerable the moment it isn't. Position size matters in investing, and income redundancy matters in personal finance. Having one fragile income stream is the equivalent of putting your entire portfolio into a single stock. The practical lesson, and there is one, is that the time to restructure debt, build an emergency cushion, and diversify income is aggressively, almost obsessively, during stability, not scrambling during the storm. Boring, disciplined financial hygiene in the good times is the only real insurance policy against the chaos of the bad ones. Don't let anyone sell you on the idea that surviving a debt spiral is purely about willpower or discipline in the moment. The structural reality is that interest compounds without asking your permission, and minimum payments in a high-rate environment are sometimes mathematically incapable of reducing principal. Knowing that isn't defeatist. It's the first step toward making a plan that actually works instead of one that just feels productive. What you can control is your response consolidation options, income acceleration, ruthless prioritization of high-interest balances first, and an honest inventory of where the spending floor actually is. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is traction, even if it's slow, because slow progress in the right direction still beats fast movement in the wrong one. There's something almost philosophical about debt during a crisis. It forces you to confront the difference between the life you were building and the life you can currently afford, and that gap is uncomfortable but clarifying. Cannon's story, and the story of millions like her, is ultimately a reminder that financial resilience isn't about being immune to hardship. It's about having enough structural flexibility to survive it without permanent damage. Discipline, sizing your obligations carefully relative to your income, and maintaining consistency in your financial decisions across both good markets and bad ones. That is the actual strategy, not the dramatic gesture, not the get out of debt quick scheme. And if you're comfortable with where you stand today, fantastic. But if Cannon's story feels a little too familiar, that comfort with your current situation is the very thing worth examining, honestly. Whether you're navigating debt, thinking about building wealth through real estate, need a reliable contractor, or want to connect with lenders who actually understand your situation, check out our links in the description below and let's get you started.